The first time I stepped onto the frozen plateau of Galthrus Prime, my boots cracked to the top layer of frost like bones snapping under pressure. The wind screamed across the barren peaks, a soundless roar in the thin atmosphere, and I remember thinking, this place was designed to kill the weak. Perfect. They say the Galactic Federation only accepts the best from every member species, warriors, engineers, tacticians. But Galactic Academy was something else entirely. A crucible. Only the top 0.1% of applicants passed its entrance trials, and even fewer survived the training. I was the first human ever accepted, not by invitation. Mind you, I applied, repeatedly. The Federation had ignored my files for 3 cycles. Then someone upstairs decided to let me in, probably for a laugh. Humans were still the new species in the galactic scene, known for their resilience, sure, but more so for being chaotic, unpredictable, and frankly, suicidal in combat situations. What they didn't understand yet was, we thrive in chaos. So there I stood, helmet off, wind biting into my cheeks like knives, surrounded by 50 other cadets from across the galaxy, Zalari with their compound eyes and crystalline wings, boulder-sized Yogren from the methane-rich moons of Torque, and at least 3 more species whose names I couldn't pronounce without choking on my own tongue. Every one of them turned to stare. When I stepped into the arrival zone, one of the Zalari tilted its head and emitted a low chirp. That's their version of laughter. I grinned back. Name? Barked the instructor, a towering Ilkari with obsidian skin and a spine of red bioluminescence. Lieutenant Aaronholt, Earth, Terran Union, Special Forces. He scanned my file through his wrist console, his 4 eyes narrowing. Human, he muttered. Unproven. Wild card. Gets results, I said, meeting his gaze. There was a long silence. Then, without warning, he jabbed a finger toward the icy cliffs behind him. You want results? You'll get them. Tomorrow begins the Ice Maze trial. Survival, navigation, tactical adaptability. You complete it, you stay. You freeze out there, you die. Your choice, Terran. I gave a crisp nod. I didn't come here to play safe. That night in the barracks, the air was thick with curiosity. Aliens tried to ignore me. But I caught the sideways glances, the whispers. One Zanari cadet, whose face resembled a smooth eel wrapped in bioluminescent cords, slithered over. You do not fear cold, it hissed, voice sloshing like water in a jar. I smiled and blew on my hands. I was raised in Michigan. Winter survival is in the blood. It blinked. Michigan? Place on Earth. Cold winters, brutal wind. Black ice on every surface. This ice maze? It's basically a snow day with consequences. The creature recoiled, muttering something about primitive thrill-seeking mammals. They didn't understand us yet. That was fine. By dawn, the ice maze loomed before us like a cathedral of frozen death. Towering walls of translucent ice, fractal corridors that reshaped themselves every 10 minutes, and temperatures so low even the methane breathers wore thermal suits. Our only objective, reach the beacon at the maze's heart before the reconfiguration cycle crushed us between shifting walls. They gave us insulated suits, visors, and anti-slip boots. All high-tech, all heavy. I declined the boots. You'll fall, the Ilkari commander warned. It's pure ice in there. Not even your primitive musculature can save you from frictionless turns. I shrugged off a concern and laced up my own custom rig. Lightweight, heat-reactive soles with micro-ridges and adaptive grip. And in my pack, ice skates. Real ones. Just watch me, I said. He did. So did everyone else. When the horn sounded and the gates opened, chaos erupted. Cadets sprinted, crawled, and skidded forward in every direction. Screams echoed as bodies slammed into walls and got swept aside by automated ice bursts. Frost bursts cracked across the ceiling like thunder. Me? I dropped to one knee, strapped the blades on, and shoved off with a grin. The moment my blades kissed the glassy surface, it all came rushing back. Those teenage winters skating on frozen lakes back home. I leaned into the first turn, slicing through a corridor of frozen knives with precision. The other cadets froze at every junction, analyzing paths, debating thermographic scans. I trusted my instincts. Took sharp corners on blind faith. Let momentum guide me. I weaved past falling ice spears and ducked under creaking arches seconds before they collapsed. It was like parkour on zero-friction glass. By the time the Yogren even cleared the first turn, I was already halfway through the maze. The silence in the comms was deafening. When I finally burst into the beacon chamber, skidding to a dramatic stop and raising my arms like an Olympic champion, I found myself face-to-face with the test supervisors. One was mouthing something. Later, I learned it was translated as, "He's skating? Through the death maze?" Yes, I was. The debrief room was colder than the maze, both in temperature and mood. A row of observation drones hovered near the ceiling, humming like flies over a carcass. The Ilkari commander paced in front of the projection wall, talons clicking sharply against the frosted floor. Behind him, a slow-motion replay of my run through the ice maze looped in silence. They'd watched the whole thing, every period, every sharp turn, every goddamn grin. I will like the cold never touched me. I wasn't supposed to win. Not that fast. Not like that. "You skated," the commander said at last, turning to face me. "Yeah," I replied, peeling the last bit of frost from my gauntlets. "Is that a problem?" He stared at me like I performed witchcraft. "This trial is designed to test calculation, collaborative navigation, thermodynamic resistance, not stunt exhibitions." "Respectfully, Commander," I said, nodding toward a replay behind him. "I passed all three, alone, in 12 minutes. That's efficiency, not showboating." He didn't reply. He didn't have to. The other instructors were murmuring among themselves in their respective frequencies, low rumbles, ultrasonic clicks, and bioluminescent pulses. I just shattered the school's fastest recorded time by a margin of 32 minutes. And the other cadets? Most hadn't made it out at all. When I returned to the barracks, silence followed me like a shadow. The others had begun trickling in, those who survived. Anyway, some limped, others were covered in ice burns or had to be pulled out by emergency drones. One Yogren had lost an arm. The Academy medbots were already rebuilding it with synthetic muscle fibers. Eyes turned to me, not with awe, with suspicion. The Zanari who'd spoken to me before slithered forward again, this time slower. "You glided, as if the maze bent around you." "I read the layout," I said with a shrug. "Use momentum. Skating's a human sport, one of our old forms of transportation. 2. I just did what I was trained to do. Adapt." A Zalari cadet fluttered its wings in agitation. "The maze is meant to equalize us, level the field, make us rely on each other." "Funny," I said, leaning against my bunk. "It didn't say anything about that in the rule brief." A heavy silence followed. That's when it hit me. My win didn't inspire them. It terrified them. The next few days were worse than the cold. I was avoided in training simulations, paired with malfunctioning equipment during drills, left out of comlink loops during team exercises. The Federation prized unity, and I had broken their social mold before I even understood it. One night, while calibrating my gear alone in the maintenance bay, I heard a voice behind me. "You're going to get yourself killed." I turned, hand already on my sidearm. It was a female cadet, species unknown, humanoid frame wrapped in a sleek obsidian carapace. Her voice buzzed through a translator embedded in her neck. "I'm flattered by the concern," I said, relaxing slightly, "but I can handle myself." She stepped forward, eyes unreadable behind a layer of reflective shielding. "This place, Galtharis, it's not just about tests. It's about hierarchy, balance. The moment you outshine the structure, you become a threat." I stared at her. "And you're warning me because I've seen what happens to threats. They don't make it to graduation. And you painted a target the size of a warship on your back. The next day, during our subterranean maneuver trials, someone tampered with my suit. Oxygen regulator reversed. HUD blinked in false terrain overlays. One wrong step, and I would have plummeted into a geothermal sinkhole. I caught it in time. Didn't report it. Instead, I rewired the sabotage, reversed the trap's logic, and set it to trigger remotely. Then, during the next ice field exercise, I watched from a thermal drone feed as a certain Zanari's visor overloaded and sent them sprawling into a cracked wall of frozen nitrogen. Non-lethal. Just enough to send a message. Humans weren't prey. 2 days later, during mess, the same dark-armored cadet sat across from me. No words. Just a subtle nod as she passed a sealed data chip across the table. What's this? Coordinates. Unscheduled test. Off the grid. Word as they're sending you. I tapped the chip against my wrist pad. A map unfolded. An unlisted glacial rift beyond the training perimeter. What's the test? No idea, but they want you isolated. Her eyes locked onto mine. If you go, be ready for more than just the ice. Later that night, standing at the edge of the rift under a storm-choked sky, I realized something. This wasn't about the Federation testing me anymore. It was about breaking me, which meant they still didn't understand. Humans don't break easy, especially not in the cold. The glacial rift yawned before me like a scar carved into the planet's surface. Black ice walls jagged as broken glass, ridges climbing into the sky like the fangs of some sleeping leviathan. The wind howled down the narrow corridor, funneling icy air so sharp it sliced through my insulated suit and burned my skin beneath. There were no lights, no support drones, no instructors. This wasn't a trial. It was a hit job, and I was the target. I activated my thermal sensors. Nothing. No trace of a test beacon. No visual indicators. Just endless cliffs of ice and an oppressive silence that felt deliberate, manufactured. I clicked into my comms. Cadet Holt, Terran Union. Arrived at coordinates. No sign of mission objectives. Awaiting orders. Static, then a faint click. Not a response. A recording. Observation active. Proceed, Terran. I narrowed my eyes. That was a commander's voice. But clipped, filtered, pre-recorded. I was being monitored, but not by command. Someone was spoofing the channel. Trap confirmed. The first shot came fast. A high-velocity ice dart that shattered against a rock beside me. Not a warning. A miss. Barely. I rolled, pulled behind a jagged outcrop, and scanned the cliffs. The dart had a signature. Zalari make. Precision weapon. Chemical propulsion. Quiet. Lethal. Another shot hissed past. Close enough to nick my arm. I felt the burn through my suit. So, we're skipping the subtlety now. I tapped my wrist console and deactivated my thermal field, instantly masking my heat signature. The suit hissed, compensating for the sudden cold, but it gave me the moment I needed to vanish into the rift shadows. They weren't expecting me to fight back. They thought I'd freeze, or panic, or die quietly. They forgot I was human. I dropped into a lower ravine, the ice beneath me slick as glass. Perfect. I crouched, slid along the edge, and used momentum to bank around a sharp bend. Behind me, I heard movement, claws on ice. Heavy footfalls. Not one assassin. 3. They were using triangulation tactics, pushing me toward a kill zone. I kicked off the wall and vaulted upward, grabbing a jagged ledge and hauling myself into a narrow crevice. They'd corner me there. That was the idea. I activated the reverse sabotage protocol I'd rigged after my suit incident. My wristband pinged. 30 seconds. Below, the 3 assassins, 2 Zalari and 1 hulking Yogren, closing on the ledge. They moved fast, precise, professional. The Yogren raised a plasma spear, eyes locked on the ledge. And then the floor gave out. My trap detonated, not explosive, just kinetic. I'd embedded resonance charges along a natural fault line in the ice. The ledge fractured and dropped, sending the trio into a roaring crevasse. I didn't look down. Hours later, I emerged from the rift, battered, bleeding, but alive. I didn't go back to the barracks. I went to the dark-armored cadet, the one who'd warned me. She was in the observation dome, studying glacial formations on a holomap. She turned before I said a word. They tried to eliminate you. Yeah, I said. I eliminated back. There was a flicker of emotion across her face. Approval? Guilt? They won't stop. You embarrass them. The Academy was designed to turn elites into weapons of obedience. You're a flaw in the algorithm, an anomaly they didn't predict. I stepped closer, voice low, then maybe it's time to rewrite the algorithm. She hesitated, then tapped her datapad and brought up a schematic, restricted access level, a blueprint of the academy beneath the surface. What is this? Proof. There's more to Galtharus than training. The ice maze? The trials? Their cover. The academy was built on something ancient, deep beneath the ice. A pre-Federation structure. Hidden tech. Forbidden. I stared at the screen. Alien runes lit up like veins in the digital snow. And the tests? Distractions. They're selecting for something, mental resilience, maybe, or obedience under pressure. But you slipped through because you weren't following the rules. And now, they don't know what to do with you. I looked up at her. Why are you telling me this? She glanced at the door. Because I'm tired of watching cadets disappear. That night, I reviewed the schematics alone. The deepest sector of the facility was sealed off. No access, even to instructors. But my wrist pad, jury-rigged with a few Terran overrides and a little battlefield know-how, started to piece together a route, a way in. If they wanted to play by their rules, they were about to regret it. I wasn't here to survive anymore. I was here to uncover the truth. And maybe, just maybe, burn this whole frozen lie to the ground. It was alien, older than the Federation, older than the war that birthed it. I slid inside and sealed the hatch behind me. The temperature dropped instantly. My breath fogged. Ice coated the walls like crystal armor. The corridor sloped downward into blackness, a narrow throat winding deep beneath the academy. My wrist pad flickered as its sensors failed to map the space. Whatever this place was, it wanted to stay hidden. Whatever this place was, it wanted to stay hidden. Step by step, I descended into a silence so absolute it pressed against my skull. My boots crunched over frost-covered plating. Shapes flickered in the walls. Frozen humanoid figures, encased in time. Some were alien, some weren't. One looked human. I pressed my hand against the ice. Frost cracked, revealing a face twisted in terror. They'd been studying us, long before we ever joined the galactic scene. I reached the chamber, a dome of solid ice wrapped around a glowing spire. Pulses of light traveled through conduits embedded in the walls. I approached the spire. It hummed at my presence, then flared, alive for the first time in centuries. Cognitive anomaly detected. The voice came from nowhere. It wasn't sound. It was inside my skull. Human neural pattern. Uncoded. Unbound. Unsafe. Yeah, I get that a lot. I muttered. The floor lit beneath my feet. My wristband sparked and died. Are you the weapon? What? Are you the virus they designed, or the cure? Then the light cut off, and alarms began to scream. They knew I was here. Sirens wailed as automated defense systems powered up. Drones Federation built, detached from the ceiling, and swarmed after me like wasps. My boots skidded across the frost-slick floor as plasma bolts hissed past my head. I ducked into a side corridor, vaulted over a broken railing, and landed hard on an ice bridge that cracked beneath my weight. The floor beneath me was glass clear, and beneath it, a network of dormant machines slept in frozen stasis. Weapons, I realized, not from any species I recognized. Weapons waiting. My wrist pad buzzed as it rebooted, temporarily restored by the charge from the spire. Substructure classified as Origin Vault. Federation access. Restricted. Terran signature. Compatible. I froze. Compatible? Whatever was buried down here, it was keyed to humans. I didn't have time to ponder it. More drones were coming. I pulled a disruptor grenade from my pack, primed it, and lobbed it behind me. The blast shattered the ice bridge just as I leapt for the exit corridor. I didn't see the drones fall, but I felt it. I made it back to the surface by sunrise. Snow fell softly around me. Peaceful. Deceptive. The dark armored cadet, her name was Vera, met me outside the maintenance bay. I handed her a shard I'd pulled from the spire, cold, humming faintly, etched in ancient runes. She paled when she saw it. This isn't Federation. No, I said, It's worse. They built the Federation on top of it. We stared at the rising sun. In its light, Galactic Academy no longer looked like a place of training. It looked like a tomb waiting to wake up. Not instructors, not cadets, operatives. They wore no insignia, no tags. Their armor was obsidian black, like Vera's, but sleeker, meaner. Their weapons were designed to disable, not kill. But I knew better. This wasn't capture. It was erasure. I led them on a chase through the training domes, through the obstacle towers, the thin opmo crawl spaces, the gravity chutes. Every corner of the academy I had mastered, I used. I was no longer a student here. I was the enemy, and I moved like one. I ducked into the zero-G chamber, reversed the field polarity, and watched two operatives slam into the ceiling like ragdolls. The third caught me with a stun charge. I went down, but not before triggering my failsafe. Vera's override code detonated the maglocks on the structural grid. The entire northeast wing went dark. We met at the extraction point, one of the frozen cliffs I'd skated past during the first trial. "You have the shard?" she asked. I nodded. "Then we go now." A stolen shuttle waited, cloaked in ion camouflage. Vera's allies, a few quiet defectors, maybe more, helped us load up. As we launched, I looked back. Galactic shrank into the storm. Peaceful again, but I'd seen its core. And it had seen me. Federation vessels. Fast. Heavily armed. They hailed us once. "Surrender the human anomaly." I looked at Vera. "I don't think they're asking nicely." She pulled a fragment from her armor and pressed it into the shuttle console. The ship groaned as it absorbed the data, then surged with alien energy. The shard from the spire responded, amplifying the signal. Suddenly, the pursuing vessel stopped, just froze in space. The consoles in their ships lit up, not with targeting systems, but with recognition protocols. Whatever I was now, whatever I carried, it spoke to them in a language older than the stars. Human presence confirmed. Genesis profile active. Initiative reinstated. The pursuing ships began to retreat. We sat in stunned silence as the void around us shimmered with signals. Wake signatures. Old ones. Ships buried and forgotten. Systems waiting for a command. All waking up now. Because of me. I wasn't just a cadet anymore. I was a key. A living trigger. Not the Federation's pawn, but the beginning of something else.